It's been a very exciting thing to put into our school. Saw the need for quite some time. The learners who've benefited first and foremost are the teachers. It's skilled them and given them confidence so that they're teaching with that confidence, which means they're having fun and enjoying it, and the children are too. So that was the very first thing that was needed. In the writing, it's been amazing to see, and I know that all the educators here will say the same things. So I'm just going to talk to a few things. So the risk-taking in the children in their writing, there's no hesitancy to write anything. They don't ever think, well, I'll avoid writing that word. They bring their oral language, they bring their book language to their writing confidently, and just write whatever's in their heart without any hesitancy. Even something like suffixes when they're learning about ED, because right from the beginning they've understood that sounds are written in many different ways. It's no surprise to them when they find out that ED has 3 different sounds, and they adjust to it very quickly and accept it very quickly and take that on. It also makes them word level detectives, so that they're noticing, for example, that Sean is spelt T-I-O-N. They're noticing and picking the patterns up themselves without explicit teaching, a number of them now, because of the way that they've been taught. In reading, with our littlies, as they learn to chunk and blend, they're way more efficient than they used to be at using the sounds and words. That efficiency and fluency allows them to integrate the meaning in more easily, because that's happening quicker, and then if they reread it all comes together beautifully. So that's our journey. There are some of the things we've noticed, I think, starting to take it for granted now, and we shouldn't, because this didn't happen by mistake.
The driving force for us jumping on board was probably a cluster group we were involved in with Titahi Bay's school, and they just seemed really enthused and they were getting good results. And of course, what teacher and what parent doesn't want that for their kiddie? So we just decided that fully fits with what we feel, what we think about kids, what we want for our kiddies, so we jumped on board with it right away. So we've been involved for a year, and I'm now starting to test, as of last term, the kiddies who became involved in this project. Most children, I'd say 80% of our kiddies, coming in with little alphabet knowledge and literacy knowledge. Our average reading level last term jumped to 11.75, so that was the national standard is 12. Our star in that group is a wee lady who was reading at level 22, and comprehension, everything's sound. It's quite remarkable. I get these kiddies and then I pass them on very quickly to the teacher next door, who's just as enthused, and the teacher 2 doors down, she's just as enthused as well. There just seems to be a real ignition in those 3 rooms of firing up this program and getting it going for these kiddies. And recently we moderated writing as a school, and I was so impressed to see kiddies that I had only in my class like 8 months earlier, and then now they've gone, and their writing was comparable to children a year, 18 months older than themselves. So that's really very, very exciting. As the results are getting better, I think teachers are getting better at delivering the program. We certainly feel very passionate about it, and so we're very keen to keep going with the program.
Kia ora, I'm Mike Lang from Titahi Bay School. I teach the new entrant year 1s. I personally have been working with these programs for about 5 years, but the school's been on it for about 7, I think. And like the other teachers mentioned, I think one of the biggest things is it really grew teachers' knowledge. Like Ngāti Toa, we're seeing an increase in our 6-year net results progressively over the last few years, and children going on to reading recovery at a higher level, which means we can move them quicker. I think one of the biggest effects for us, though, too, is if you look to your year 3s and 4s and what effect it's having there. If we're getting that groundwork right and we're teaching English properly, and that's really how I see it, I think children are understanding English better, teachers are understanding English better, and we're seeing better results at that year 3-4 level where teachers aren't battling those little gaps. And if you're new at this, bear with it. I know it's frustrating and overwhelming at first. I can distinctly remember in week 6 of my first term of doing this, I was pulling my hair out going, it's not working, it doesn't work. 2 weeks later, the penny dropped, and that light bulb went, actually it does. So give it that time, and we're not perfect yet, and we've been working at it for a lot of years, but we're starting to see things like, someone like you alluded to the writing, with some of our 5-year-olds with writing, being prepared to, and know that a ch sound is a C and an H, a sh sound is a S and an H, and so they have that knowledge, and they're not fearful of putting that on paper. We've had boys that turned up this year who told me they'd never drawn a picture before when they came to school, but they're writing good complex sentences, good stories with several ideas, without that fear of having to write the right word correctly, but getting the right sounds. In reading, we're seeing children sound out complicated words using a long and a short vowel option, whereas I think a few years ago they would have only attempted the short vowel option. So we're starting to see that, and kids talking about magic E or silent E, and when there's a long vowel, it's probably followed. And so, if a 5-year-old is picking that up, one of our big driving forces why we got on this was years ago, year 6s were leaving our school not at the level that they needed to be to go on to intermediate or college, and we wanted to combat that. So we started at the bottom at that new entrance level, and we believe we can get it right there, feed it through, it's going to have an effect on the whole school. But just coming back to that starting point, it really grew our teachers' knowledge and confidence, and I think that's a huge key factor.